2024 to you and yours. Believe it or not, this is the first show of 2024. And a special thank you to Blue Shamrock Music and Mr. Stephen Brady. You are watching the Music Dreams USA Radio Artist Spotlight Show. And man, do we got a treat for you tonight. This artist has had a musical career for a long period of time, been on some of the biggest stages, and she's got a really cool story that she's going to be sharing with us about her musical journey. We'll find out about her musical journey. We'll find out about some pretty cool things she's done and a lot more. So stay with us. It is now time to introduce you to our special guest of the evening. She is the one, the only TC Cassidy is in the house. Woo!
Well, that was
Well,
a
Miss
huge
TC, welcome to
introduction.
the show. How are you?
I'm well, thank you, Russell. How are you?
We are doing great. So glad to have you on our show this evening. And what's going up there in Australia?
Oh, there's lots coming up at the moment. Or there's lots that's been going on with me over the last 18 months after a 30-year hiatus. I'm not old at all. And in a week, we've got the big Tamworth Country Music Festival, which is the biggest country music festival in Australia, which is an absolute party for 10 days. But I'm actually up for a golden guitar with my friend and producer, Angus Gill. So that should be an absolute, it's just phenomenal to be nominated in such a prestige category. We're up for best bluegrass recording of the year, so fingers crossed. But if we don't take that golden guitar home, it's just been an absolute honor to be in the top 5. It's just great.
That's awesome. Well, congratulations. And for all of our listeners that are watching now that will be watching, can you kind of like share with us your musical journey from the start to where you are right now?
Sure. So right from the start. How much time have you got?
We'll make time for you.
I'll try. I'll
Well, I'm
fast
sorry.
track
I
it.
forgot to tell you, when you come to the Music Dreams USA Artist Spotlight Show, expect the unexpected.
Okay. That sounds interesting. For sure. Well, I was 7 years of age when I first showed promise or talent, I guess. My parents didn't think too much of it. My auntie did. And it was my auntie who said to mum, back in the day, like I said, I was 7 years of age. And I'd just be, singing and humming along to records that dad would play. Thanks to my beautiful dad, who we lost um, last February, so almost a year ago, I had the healthiest diet of country music. And I grew up on Merle Haggard, Emmylou Harris, Willie Nelson. It was all the American greats. Hank Williams, I idolize to this day. And so thanks to dad, I had a love from the start with a healthy diet of country. And I'd sing along to records. I'd sing along to TV jingles, just television ads on the telly. And it was my auntie who said to my mum one day, you should take her to singing lessons and see if there's anything there. Mind you, I was 7. And mum didn't sort of think too much about it. And my auntie, thankfully, she harped on it and said, I'll take her and I'll pay for the lessons. If there's nothing there, well, that's fine. But just let me pay for the first few lessons, and because I think there's something there. Well, I ended up doing like 9 years of vocal training, and actually did a bit of classical as well, which did help with the fundamentals and the foundation of vocal training. You might a lot of professional dancers, regardless to what style of dance they do, will often say that they started out in classical ballet, similar to vocal training, regardless of genre. However, country was always me, my heart and soul. Anyway, I'm fast tracking here. 16 years of age, I recorded my first album with a very well-known musician and producer here called Garth Porter. He was in a well-known band called Sherbet. And I co-wrote a lot of the tracks with him. I had my 16th birthday in the studio.
Awesome.
Yeah, I remember that significantly because they actually brought in a sweet 16 birthday cake. So I started quite early as far as a professional career goes. And that album went really, really well. And then I disappeared for a long time, for a good, well, 17 years. It wasn't by choice. I desperately didn't want to stop doing what I loved, but I endured a health battle, unfortunately, which
Oh,
lasted for 17 years. I had bulimia, an eating disorder, and it just consumes you. And as a 16-year-old, I probably developed it at 15, I would say, but then I was just on a downward spiral, which was an absolute shame because my career was just starting to take off. And then my health had other ideas. Yeah. So, but it took 17 years, and thankfully, I've got two beautiful teenage daughters, and I often say that my eldest daughter Shelby pretty much saved my life, because the day that I found out that I was pregnant was the day that I knew that I had to do something about it. But I had no choice, really.
wow.
Um, yeah, so that's a lot of people will say and I've only just spoken about this openly probably in the last 6 months or so. When I released a single before the current one called Alive Again. I kind of thought, I think it's about now that I need to be open and honest as to why such a long hiatus. I used to just say when I do interviews, life happened in general, many, wrong way go back scenarios, which is true. Life did happen, and you sort of experience life outside the music industry. But what I didn't actually delve right into was the health battle. So, and I think it's important. I feel a lot better for talking about it because it's still an issue today, with young girls, and the way that social media portrays itself. I think it's quite important to talk about. We've got lots of foundations here in Australia. The Butterfly Foundation do a lot of support work for people with eating disorders, whether it's bulimia or anorexia. So, but yes, that's pretty much the. I ended up having a 30-year hiatus. 17 of those 30 years was bulimia, and you could say the other half of that 30 years pretty much was motherhood. So I have a almost 16-year-old and a 13-year-old. So that was the hiatus in a nutshell. And then um, 2 years ago, it would be almost 2 years ago, my friend and producer, who I've done this duet with, Waiting on a Train, the bluegrass track, we bumped into him one night at a show here in Port Macquarie, where we live in Australia. And he was behind me and he tapped me on the shoulder, and we got talking after the show. And he said, "Have you ever thought of getting back into it? Because you'd be surprised at how many people still in the industry remember you." And I kind of brushed it off. I guess I was like, oh God, that's a bit intimidating. Angus Gill approaching me to, to get it. Well, I was very intimidated. And I said to him, and this was the honest truth, I said, I've always dreamt of going back to doing what I loved. But I guess because it's been so long, you kind of lose touch with contacts and, where do you start type thing. And he said, well, I've got a studio. You live 10 minutes away from me. If you feel like ever getting back into writing, come out. We'll have a couple of drinks and we'll just write. As long as you've got an idea, we can go from there. 4 months later, I didn't do anything about it because I was so intimidated. I wanted to. And anyway, 4 months. So it was June that he approached me. Come October, I got a message from him, and he said, have you thought any more about writing a song? You should do a comeback single. And he said, I've got a great idea. You should come out on a Sunday afternoon and we can finish it together if you like it. And anyway, we had a couple of fireballs, and we finished that song, and I released it as a single. But within 9 months, I said, can we do an album? So we wrote an entire, what was meant to be just or possibly a comeback single. Not only did we do that, but we ended up writing a 10-track album that was released last September, that went so well. I'm blown away at how well the response with my comeback has been. It's a beautiful feeling. And country music and I think it's the same over there with you guys. It's like a big family.
It is.
It
It really
feels
is.
like I've never left, and it's just a beautiful feeling. I kind of I I stepped back from performing and recording. When I say leaving the industry, I feel like I never did as such, because I was always there on the sideline watching my friends and colleagues just reach for the stars and achieve their goals. And like I've just explained, my hiatus, it took some turns for me, but I always did think in the back of my mind that I would return, but everything just needed to align, and fortunately it did. And it may have been only like 18 months ago, but better late than never, and I've never looked back. I should never have left for so long, but as I explained, it wasn't by choice. It was something that I was dealt with, and thankfully overcame. I do know a lot of people are not lucky enough to break that cycle with that health battle. So all is well, and we're up for a golden guitar.
That's awesome. That's so
Yeah,
awesome.
so that's my little story of being absent for so long. I'm not a young spring chicken like a lot of the upcoming country music artists are, but I'm true and I'm real, and it yeah, I'm so glad to be back, just doing what I absolutely love. Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing that amazing story. And I just said, I mean, I was actually listening to your story. It was giving me goosebumps. And
Oh,
you're a great example of what the music industry is all about. It's your time. Your time is now to come back and do what you love to do. But my question is, how did you deal with the adversity? For being away for so long. It's like as you mentioned them earlier in the interview, you mentioned that you started at a very young age, and at a very young age, you found out that you had something there, and your aunt was very supportive of you. So you start off like you're at the top of the world, and then all of a sudden you had an unfortunate sickness that happened and made you change your plan. So how did you deal with your adversity, and during the time away from the music industry?
how did I deal with it? I guess I remember going to mum one day saying and it's funny. I've lost mum 3 years now, and dad it'll be a year next month.
I'm sorry about
Um,
that. Yeah.
in the yeah, they were my biggest fans, my biggest supporters, and they still are. I know they are. They'll be up there cheering me on in Tamworth or for Tamworth. When I wanted had to have a break, I went to mum and said, I just need time out. Um, they were devastated at the time, but you know what? To the day they took their last breath, I never spoke to, because I've only come out in the last 6 months with the eating disorder. It's quite shameful. I understand. Well, when you're going through it, you don't like. It's not something that you want people to know.
Right.
It's like a lot of illnesses, I guess. But it was something that I hid from. When I say hid from my parents, they weren't silly. They knew. Mum tried to talk to me a few times about it, but as a teenager and early adulthood, it was deny, deny, deny. So unfortunately, I never got to have that conversation with either of them. It's only in the last 6 months, and I never spoke about it. But I guess I dealt. How did I deal? You've got me. I guess it's just something I had to do.
Right.
Yeah, and I wasn't able to actually fix myself until, like I said, the day that I found out that I was pregnant with Shelby, my eldest, who's 16 this year. I don't. I'm just thank my lucky stars that I was able to stop, because God knows what the outcome would have been.
Mhm.
Yeah, so I'm not, you've got me with that one. I just dealt with it because I had to. Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
if
I
that
think,
makes
one thing I'm picking up during our interview is like you overcame adversity. You stood the course and you were able to get through the adversity part of that. And you're able
mm,
to get back into doing something you love to do, which is the music industry. And,
mhm.
especially with the gentleman asking you, to come back multiple times, come back and to do the music, and that
Oh,
was, yeah,
100%.
yeah, that,
Yeah. Sorry, you go.
oh, no, no, you first. Yeah, please.
I was just going to say, if it wasn't, I can 100% say, if it wasn't for Angus Gill, who produced my songs. He's a brilliant musician too. He's great. He's a great bluegrass artist, actually. If it wasn't for him approaching me to make a comeback and believing in me, um, it wouldn't. It wouldn't have happened. I don't think, because I wouldn't have known where to start, so to speak. So yeah, thanks to Angus too. And I think it's just like I said, how everything aligned. It was running into Angus that night, supporting another friend at a concert. It was meeting my beautiful husband. We actually went to school together,
Oh,
but never
awesome.
dated. We were good friends at school, and nothing ever eventuated as far as romance or anything. And so we got together later on in life too. And I think having that support from your other half is everything, because I didn't have that before either. So I guess coming back to what I wanted to do it was always a burning desire for me, but uh, the building blocks were not there.
Right.
Nothing aligned until 18 months to 2 years ago. So, and I'm 49 this year. So if I can be an example to others who are sitting there watching this interview, thinking that it's too late for them to pursue something they've always dreamt of, if I can just encourage one person to get out and do that, and and realize that it's not too late, well, then that's absolutely fantastic. Job done.
Yeah, I'm glad. I love hearing you say that, because you are so right. I mean, it doesn't matter if you're just getting into the music business or if you've been in it for a long time. There's always going to be opportunities, right? And the people who are successful are the people who take advantage of those opportunities. And just like what you're doing right now, you're taking advantage of the opportunities, and and you're just rocking the house. And I had opportunity to listen to your music, and wow, it's absolutely awesome. And so thank you for making
Oh,
some great music. And here's my next question for you.
thank
Now,
you.
as we're
Yep.
talking about the music industry, right? So let's take a trip down memory lane. So picture when you first started in the music industry, right? At a very young
Mhm.
age. Now we're going fast forward, and we're into 2024. What difference do you see in the music industry? Do you like it? You don't like it? What is your feedback on that?
Oh, now I have to be careful how I answer this one.
That's okay. We're protected by Blue Shamrock Music.
Well, I think country music in the last couple of years, 2 to 5 years, has as it's great, because I feel that it's broken through, so to speak, and a lot of country's cool now. Dare I say? To me, it's always been cool, and I used to preach that to everybody, even when I was at school. For instance, I used to get bullied at school, in high school in particular, for singing country music. Today it's broken through, as far as we've got thanks to like people like Luke Combs, like uh, they've they've attracted a younger market, which is great. And a lot of my daughters grew up with country music too. They had no choice. Thankfully, they love it. But their friends at school like country music too, and I think it's because of like, and dare I say, Taylor Swift, and like they've attracted a younger market to actually explore the genre, so to speak. So I feel with the likes of those couple that I've mentioned, it's been good for country music. I think country music is in good hands. I I'm more of a fan of traditional country, so I'm die hard with you. I love Patty Loveless. I love Emmylou Harris. I think I mentioned a couple of these before. And as a little kid, I grew up with, like, Dad used to play bluegrass around the house. Ricky Skaggs and Kentucky Thunder. I absolutely, to this day, I still play. his music on a daily basis here at home. So I think, to answer your question, I'm kind of diverting here a little bit because I never shut up talking.
Oh,
Um,
you're fine.
I feel probably making your job easier, am I? I feel it's in good hands. Yeah, I'm not so much a fan of pop country, but it certainly has a place. Um, I I like my Martina McBrides and the solid country. Um, love George Jones, but I do believe, to answer your question, the country coming through, yes, it's great, and I think it serves a purpose, and it's kind of like everything evolves, it's evolution. Like milk, years ago, it was either full cream milk or skim milk. Now it's so many different varieties. Well, to me, that's like country music now. It's like pop country, country rock, country pop. There's all different little niches, and I think that's a good thing. That's growth.
That's awesome. So if you had one thing to change in the music industry, what would it be?
Oh, maybe to bring. I feel the live music. It's on the way up again. I'd like to see it go back to more support with live music. I feel, and everybody's sick of the word COVID, but I feel since then it's affected a lot of live shows and festivals. Yeah, like I said, it's on the incline again, which is great. Yeah, so I think live music is super, super important to an artist. And it's even more important that it's supported. So for people to buy a ticket and go out and support, well, this is in Australia anyway. I'm sure it's the same over in America. Yeah,
It
yeah,
is, absolutely.
yeah. We wholly and solely, like, well, heavily rely on supporting live music. Yeah, and CD sales would be great. But again, that's all growth with digital platforms now, like your Spotify and. Yeah, I'd like to see CD sales back on the incline too, but that's I don't think that's just progress, isn't it? With the way of the world. Yeah.
Gotcha. So let's talk about your single and how did that single come about, and what does your songwriting look like as you put that single together?
So, would you believe? So, the current single, which was released the very tail end of September, from memory, is called "Waiting on a Train." So, Angus Gill and a gentleman by the name of Ronnie Bowman. Um, I do believe they did this over a Zoom um, during lockdown, so during COVID. So I didn't have a part in this one as far as writing, but Angus sent it to me one day just on an old work tape. And I believe Ronnie Bowman was actually singing it, the co-writer with him. Um, and I fell in love with it. And it's pretty. There is no really. I asked Angus, was there a backline story? There wasn't really. And in fact, what they set out to start writing didn't kind of turn out how it ended, which is often how songs do finish up in the end. It's not. You might start out with an idea and then it just diverts to something else, and then you go down a different path. So Waiting on a Train kind of started like that. It's basically a bluegrass, it's a romance between two people falling in love, waiting on a train, pretty much. It's not too deep a story, but it's just a really beautiful love story. And we ended up doing a video for it out at a very quaint old little very, very old little tiny town not far from where we live, called Kendall. And we did it out at the Kendall train station. So Angus and I were just sitting on like on the platform. Angus is playing his banjo and I'm playing my acoustic guitar, and we're just singing it. Mind you, Angus is 25 and I'm nearly 49. So I made sure that the videographer, who's a good friend of ours, didn't make it look like it was him and I falling in love waiting on a train.
I don't think your husband will like that one, huh?
I would look like a cougar, right? So
I
it
plead the
was
fifth
more
on
of
that
us
one.
just sitting on the platform. And I sort of, well, I hoped it just portrayed that we were both sitting there singing the song, telling the story, so to speak, rather than being the actors in this, as the people falling in love.
That's awesome. So
Yeah,
now,
but it's just, and
as far as the album goes, there, can you maybe talk to us a little bit more about the songs on that album, and how did they come about? And after this album, is there plans on making another album, or you kind of just maybe kind of like let this one ride off for just a little bit, and maybe revisit that a little bit later on down the road?
yeah, probably the latter. Probably revisit down the road. In saying that, so with the album, which I'll chat a little bit about in a minute. I think I've released three. Hang on, I've got to think. Two singles have been released after since the album, that are not on that album. So Traveling Heart was released in September 22. So it's just been over a year now, and it's still going really great. We were so stoked to have. So the first single that was lifted off it was a little song called Ain't Too Late to Start Again, which
Mhm.
was perfect for a comeback single. That was the first one that I came out with. And that was the idea that Angus had when I told you that he contacted me a few months after not hearing anything and said, I've got an idea in my head, but he just had the title and a little bit of the chorus. And he said, it's called Ain't Too Late. And he said, there's absolutely nothing that I can do with it. I think you're perfect for it. And that's the day that I went out and we finished writing that single. And then I said, oh, can we do an album? Which we did. But Ain't Too Late, that was the first single it's the opening on the album, actually. So that was great fun writing. Actually, we had a lot of fun writing throughout the time. It took from start to finish, I think, maybe approximately 9 months. Yeah,
Wow.
to get 10 songs. Yeah, yeah. So there was a couple more that we wrote together. Another song on there called Lion Ass Cheating Man.
Tell me more about that one.
Well, we made a joke. I said to Angus, it's not really a country album if there's not a cheating song on it. So,
You got a point there.
yeah. So we just actually, it's kind of, dare I say it was based on a so-called true story, but Port Macquarie, I don't know if you guys have little towns where everyone thinks they know your business. We actually call it Tor Macquarie. So how much truth was in this actual song that we'd written, who knows? But it did make a bloody good song.
I love it.
And every time I do it live, I do make a point of saying it was not written about my husband. So just clear that one up.
Yeah, I don't think that would be a good idea, would it now?
No, I don't think so.
So let me ask you, when people listen to your music, what is the message that you're sending out to the people that love to listen to you?
What's the message?
Mhm.
When I perform, or when I'm choosing songs to go on an album, they're obviously got to be performed for a reason. So to start, I've got to mean something to me. So I guess it's my story from the heart, speaking from the heart. A lot of traveling heart. The Traveling Heart album, all of those 10 tracks are on there for a reason. Some are quite personal, some are quite lighthearted and funny, like Lion Ass Cheating Man. There's on there about my mum. Actually lost my beautiful mum. We laid her to rest 1 week before our wedding. So there's a song on there called She Would Have Loved It, meaning basically where she would have loved it. She would have loved everything about it. She would have loved the dress ceremony. And yeah, so that was from your question again. I'm good at that. I just hope when I sing, I'll get back to now. I'm hoping when I sing, which that comes, I like to tell people my story and touches them in and it often does. I often get people come up and say, "Oh, that reminded me of my dad or my childhood." And I think music is a powerful. I think music it touches in many. Also, one song could have a completely different meaning to somebody else. The exact same song, just its perspective, what that song means to you. For instance, "Alive Again," that came out about my health. So many people message me saying, "What are what's the word? I've got a mind blank. Like an anthem of survival." It was them. A guy suffered bad depression and anxiety. He played "Alive Again" every morning on his way to work, and it helped him. "Alive Again" meant something different to me. I'm alive again. I've overcome so many demons that I've spoken about. Yeah, so I love how a song can strike people. You know, the same song can have a different effect on people.
Wow. Yeah, that's an amazing story. And how can our listeners get in contact with you?
So I've got a run getting built. Should be up and running anytime soon. So I haven't got that out yet, but I am on Facebook under TC City. Instagram, and all my music is available on all digital platforms, Spotify, Apple Music.
Awesome. As we wind down our interview, again, thank you so much for taking the time out to be with us. And a special thank you to Stephen Brady and Blue Shamrock Music. And for everyone
Yeah,
watching
thank
now that will be watching, you are listening and watching to the Music Dreams USA Radio Artist Spotlight Show. It's your friend Russell K. And you can join us on the Russell K, Alexa, and Shauna Brown morning show, 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. And tomorrow morning, we are going to play a song. Actually going to open up our morning show, and we're going to dedicate it to our special guest here today. And she's had an amazing story. And before we close on our interview, are there any final thoughts or anything you'd like to share with our listeners?
No, just thank you so much for having me. And if there's anyone out there thinking that it's too late to pursue any field, not just music, anything, any profession, whatever it is, if you've had a burning desire, please, too late. I've never looked back from 18 months ago. So yeah, it just go for it. You've got nothing.
One final question for you before I let you go.
Oh
All
God,
right.
is it going to get me on the spot?
Oh no, we don't do that here on the Music Dreams USA Radio Artist Spotlight Show. So obviously you've had an amazing musical career. Is there one memory or a few memories that stand out to you? And if so, what are they and why are they so special to you?
Of course. We did a mini tour and a performance with Keith Urban. Keith actually had located over to America at that point. It was early 90s. So definitely they hold fond memories because he did a couple of midnight shows at Tamworth. And then we did like a little a mini tour up the mid-north coast. So they hold very fond memories. He was just an absolute gentleman and a beautiful human being, which I'm sure nothing would have changed. Who else? Bobby Bear. I met Bobby Bear in New Zealand. They have a Golden Guitar Awards in a tiny little town called Gore, and I competed in the Golden Guitar Awards over there. I was 15, and Bobby Bear was the international artist. He was an absolute delight to meet. I'll never forget that. He was just a gentle soul. What else are my fond memories? Slim Dusty. He's an absolute icon here in Australia. He's our hero of country music, the king of country. and rightly so. I did a couple of shows with Slim. It was an honour to meet Slim, and I'm still to this day good friends with his daughter Anne. So it's lovely to have that connection. So there's many highlights that I could sit and tell you about. But yeah, we haven't got all day. But they're ones that predominantly stick out in my mind. I've just been blessed to perform with so many people over the years. It's been an honor. And one day I want to get over to Nashville. I will get there one day
And when you do, make sure
before
you
I'm
come
in
over
a
and say
nursing
hello
home.
to us.
Pardon? What was
Make
that?
sure you when you come over to Nashville, make sure you come on over and say hello to us. That'd be awesome.
Oh, that'd be wonderful. I will for sure. I don't know
Yeah.
when that will be, but I will definitely look you up. Careful what you wish for.
Hey, that's okay. That's what I love about the music business, right? You meet friends for life, right? And that's one of the joys we have
100%.
doing this show. But thank you so much for your time this evening, and happy New Year's to you and your family, and much success as you continue to move on in your illustrious career as an amazing artist. So we thank you for your music, and thank you for sharing your story this evening. It was an amazing story, and as I mentioned earlier, as you were telling that story, it gave me goosebumps, and well,
Oh,
thank you for sharing that. And yeah, you're an
thank
amazing
you.
example of what the music industry is all about. So thank you for sharing that.
Oh, thanks so much, Russell, for having me. It's been a pleasure.
You're more than welcome. Well, unless you don't have any final thoughts, again, to all of our listeners out there watching now that will be watching, again, a special thank you to Stephen Brady with Blue Shamrock Music, who sponsors our show. And we'll be back next week. Make sure you check in with us each and every week, as we'll have different artists to be interviewing. In the meantime, it's your friend Russell K. along with my special guest. Put your hands up for Miss T.C. Cassidy. She is rocking the house, and we thank her for her time this evening. Until the next time, make sure just to be safe, and Happy New Year's to you and your family. And don't forget, check out Music Dreams USA Radio every Friday and Saturday night. It's the Friday and Saturday night dance party live from Rochester, New York, with DJ Johnny U as he rocks the house. And make sure you check it out. That's coming your way every Friday and Saturday from 7 p.m. to 11 p.m. Eastern. And again, the Russell K, Alexa, and Shauna Brown morning show, 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. Make sure you listen tomorrow, because we are going to play a special song from T.C. Cassidy, and we're going to dedicate that song to her and her amazing musical career. Until next time, thank you so much for watching Music Dreams USA Radio on a Spotlight Show. Take care. Have a wonderful evening.